So I asked God how much he loved me. I asked him if there was a way for him to express it to me numerically, how it would look. And though he didn't really give me a formula, he gave me this instead. He says, if it were possible for me to count each drop when it's raining and multiply that number by any quantity, I wouldn't be able to measure just how much he loves me. He told me that if it were possible for me to count each blade of grass that grows in open fields or in patches along city streets, I still wouldn't be able to determine just how much he loves me. He told me that if it were humanly possible for me to count the number of leaves that grow and fall from each and every single tree in the world, that I still wouldn't be able to fathom just how much he loves me. Because he loves me completely, unconditionally, and holistically. See, when I was young and misguided, I had a false representation of what it meant to be loved, and thus I did all of the above in an effort to obtain that feeling. I said when I was young and misguided, I had a false representation of what it meant to be loved, and thus I did all of the above in an effort to achieve that feeling of pure ecstasy. That feeling that I read about in books and magazines, those I love him quizzes and how do I know if he loves me and which zodiac sign is perfectly designed to complete me. See, if love was a drug, I was strung out. But soon after, my addiction became my affliction, and no amount of morphine could cure my condition. I was broken, and I was looking for a mechanic to fix it instead of consulting the carpenter who was capable of handling it. I was beyond the point of rehabilitation, and in my frustration, my flesh was screaming and fiending for anything that would please me. And though the high came quick, it left just as quickly. And in my desperation to take that quick hit, to get that quick fix, I didn't realize until it was too late that I'd been infected. That I contracted an STD, a spiritually transmitted disease. And when that high came down, I would look over and I wouldn't be able to believe that I even allowed him to touch me, a soul tie created out of lust-laced lies, hidden behind the disguise that he loved me. But it was never love for me. It was only lust for me because I was an addict. And he knew that I would let him do what he wanted with me if he gave me drugs for free. I said, this world is incapable of loving me because I was only an addict. And I would let him do what he wanted with me if he gave me drugs for free. So though there were no needle marks in my arms and my fingers weren't burnt and my lips weren't black, my heart was an ebony encumbrance. I was sick. But how many of you know that he makes house visits and I happened to meet the requirements? I had a broken heart and a contrite spirit, and he knocked. He knocked and I wouldn't answer, but he knocked repeatedly, and then it hit me that the God of the universe would knock first. That he had enough respect for me to knock first. That the God of heaven and earth would have enough respect for me to knock first. He treated me like I was a lady. Told me that I was something when everyone who come before him had told me that I was nothing. He treated me like I was royalty. And in his vow of loyalty that he chosen me, proposed to me, and paid much more than gold for me. So, if it were humanly possible for you to count the grains of sand that cover the beaches, piers, and docks, you wouldn't be able to number the thoughts that he has about me. So much so that he says he created me fearfully and wonderfully, that he loves me zealously and jealously. He loves me so much so that he died for me. Though my sins were as scarlet, he still wants to make a wife of me. So when Paul describes his love, I must agree, for I am convinced that there is absolutely nothing that can separate me from the love that God has for me. Completely, holistically, and unconditionally. And though he didn't give me an equation that could express his love mathematically, he gave me one symbol: infinity. Thank you.